I'm Gary, and this is Coasting with Culture. I like to combine theme park visits and riding roller coasters with various cultural experiences around the world. Last time, I started the Peru leg of my South America journey with an overnight bus ride to Huancayo, taking the morning to explore the city center, then heading to an amusement park just outside of town for the first coaster credit in Peru. This time, it's a pair of Peruvian city day trips, first with a flight to Trujillo to see the ruins of a former capital and wandering an important plaza before searching for a coaster. Then the next day, there was another bus ride to hopefully add yet another coaster credit to the list. Sleeping this time came much easier after walking around Huancayo the day before, but the bus ride was far from the last ride of the day. From the terminal, I went right back to Lima's airport, which gave me the opportunity to enjoy something I hadn't been able to do since 2 mornings before. That was fantastic. After doing 2 days of exploring and 2 overnight bus rides, adult baby wipes can only help so much to make you feel clean. A shower though, that was great. After a much needed cleanse, I went to the gate for the morning flight to the city of Trujillo, courtesy of Sky Airline, a low-cost carrier that would be used a few times while in Peru. Much like in Colombia, this would be a day trip with an evening flight to return on the same day after exploring the city and trying for a coaster in the area. While most seats on this plane are tight, I lucked out and was assigned an exit row for this flight. Because of Trujillo's coastal location, this flight offered Pacific Ocean views along the way until landing near the water's edge. Much like the previous day in Huancayo, I had some cultural stops planned for the first part of the day before going after a coaster. To kick things off, I made a stop to see the remains of the largest pre-Columbian era city in South America, Chanchan. This is the former capital of the Chamorro Empire from the year 900 to 1470. As you arrive to the entrance, they offer some information about the ruins, and if you wish, you can hire a guide to walk with you through them, to offer more information about the different sections of these desert ruins. You also have the option to walk through them on your own. The first section you come into is the ceremonial plaza, with open space for the people to gather. Reading about how there would have been a main priest that would come down this ramp and that there'd be musicians and singers playing as they come out, and then the supporting priest or lower level priest would come out the sides. It almost sounds like it was, in a way, kind of a pro wrestling match. You know, get the big introduction, get the entrance down the ramp. I'd imagine it's pretty wild. As you go further into the ruins, you'll walk among additional ceremonial rooms, burial chambers, temples, and residences that had been part of life in Chanchan. The ruins are filled with all kinds of unique carving patterns, and to help protect the ruins, they've placed roof panels above them. Well, you see that they have the roof up above to protect the ruins and keep them under cover, protect them from the sun, the weather. The added benefit is that on a day like today, it doesn't get too hot here for those who are visiting. You get a nice cool breeze coming from the ocean, circulating the air underneath, so it helps keep from getting too warm. This complex is amazingly huge and it sprawls through different directions, and so I'd imagine that without the signage and the ropes to help guide the way, it'd become very easy to get lost in here. So after going to check out a little bit of ancient civilization, I think we'll go ahead and skip forward in time, so to speak, heading to the city center. Heading out of the ruins and toward the city, the cab driver pointed out this incredible mural alongside the campus of Universidad Nacional de Trujillo, which was made using really small colored tiles and arranged to portray images of Peruvian culture and history throughout time. Coming into the city center, I went right to Plaza de Armas de Trujillo. The square was formed when the first streets of Trujillo were planned back in 1534, and this was the site where the proclamation of Trujillo's independence from Spain was made in the year 1820. The middle of the plaza features the Freedom Monument, created by German sculptor Edmund Moller. On the other side of the plaza was Basilica Catedral de Trujillo, which was one of the brightest cathedrals I've ever seen because it's painted a canary yellow. But the bright color fits it because inside you'll find some gorgeous artwork on the ceilings as well as those found on the walls. To the right of the main entrance of the basilica is the entrance to the church's museum, where you can find even more religious artwork as well as colonial art. I've never claimed to be an incredibly religious person, but I absolutely love going to these houses of worship, whether they're cathedrals or mosques, because in some cases they tend to be some of the most beautiful architecture that you'll find in a city. The other thing that's also really fascinating about this one is the paintings on the inside, especially on the ceiling. That was some incredible artwork that's inside. From Plaza de Armas, I took a stroll down Giron Francisco Pizarro, a pedestrian street with shops and restaurants. And like some of the other cities, more street performers to entertain the passers-by. This was an excellent opportunity to see the more colorful colonial architecture. After exploring the city center, it was on to Mall Aventura Plaza, where I was hoping to find the next coaster credit. Roller Coaster Database had one listed at Coney Park, which is part of a Peruvian family entertainment center chain by the same name. When looking inside, they had some smaller rides like this train ride, and they had a new trampoline and high ropes course park that they were constructing in a neighboring building. but there was no sign of an operating coaster. So I was looking it up on Google Maps, and it seems to be there was a Coney Park location behind me in the past that's no longer here. So I'm not sure if maybe that was where the coaster was supposed to be, or if maybe it was never here in the first place. I don't know. Unfortunately, it's not looking very good though, because I'm walking around the mall and not seeing anything. To cover my bases, I found there was another Coney Park location in town at Open Plaza Los Jardines. But when looking inside, it was even smaller than the other location. So there would be no coasters to ride here in Trujillo. But I did discover a new beverage to try in the attached grocery store. So as I was reading about the flavor of Inca Cola being kind of a sort of bubblegum type flavor, it wasn't really what I was expecting it to be. But it's pretty good, I like it. With no coasters to be found in Trujillo, I grabbed a cab that took me back through the coastal desert to return to the airport in preparation for the return to Lima. With a bit of time before departure, I grabbed an empanada that seemed more like a stuffed roll and tried the Pilsen Callao beer. A bit later, it was time for the evening flight back to the Peruvian capital, where I would spend the night before the next day's adventure. Unfortunately, I didn't luck out with an exit row this time, but at least it was a short flight. For the next few nights, I stayed at a hostel called Selena in Miraflores. This hostel had a really neat vibe to it, from its Volkswagen-esque front desk to their use of wristbands for identifying hostel guests. I did have a private room which shared a bathroom with other rooms, but this room offered a neat view of the Miraflores neighborhood and gave the opportunity to sleep with guinea pigs above my head. And boy did I sleep after the past 2 nights of overnight bus rides. The following morning I took my time and had a later breakfast before departing from Selena Miraflores to head to the closer Cruz del Sur terminal, located on Avenida Javier Prado Este. Unfortunately, traffic on the way to the depot took up more time than I had planned for this day trip, which resulted in missing an express bus to Ica that I was hoping to catch. So I waited in the terminal for the next bus to Ica about an hour later, only this one had a couple additional stops on the way, making it a 5.5-hour ride instead of closer to 4. It was a fascinating ride though, as we drove through the last of the greater Peru area, then transitioned into more of the remote parts of the Peruvian deserts outside the city. Part of our drive allowed us to see the Pacific Ocean, which caused fogging due to the colder temperature of the water. Some parts of the drive reminded me of the Mario Kart 64 level called Coco Mountain, with the steep mountains and hills covered in a thick fog. As we rolled further south, the fog was lighter and the sun came out. After making a stop in the coastal town of El Chaco, we headed further inland and over to Ica. Unfortunately, because of the traffic delay to the bus terminal and then having to take the regular bus instead of the express, I wouldn't have as much time for exploring the city as I did Huancayo and Trujillo in the past 2 days. But I was able to make my way to the location of Valerie World, a smaller amusement park with a large canopy to provide cover from the sun in the daytime, although this park mainly operates in the evening hours. As luck would have it, the main motivation I had for this park was here and operating. The Wacky Worm style coaster they simply called roller coaster. A word of caution for credit seekers though, they won't run it without at least 2 riders. So if you go solo as I did, you might have to wait for an additional rider. Since I had a bit of time before I had to catch the return bus, I went to the nearby mall for dinner, then grabbed a cab to get back to the terminal, although part of me wishes I would have grabbed a ride on one of the tuk-tuks rolling around town just for the experience. The stretch of 3 city-hopping days in Peru would end with a 4-hour express ride back to Lima, where the next few days would be focused. Thank you for watching this Coasting with Culture video. If you enjoyed it, please give it a thumbs up and click the subscribe button below to see future videos here on YouTube, like these ones which you may enjoy as well. Additional content can be found at coastingwithculture.com, and you can also follow Coasting with Culture on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter for announcements, previews, and updates. Thanks again for watching, and until next time, take care and safe travels.